Hey, Humble Nation, and welcome back to Money and Politics. It is July the 26th, and we are rushing through the month of July. It's going by fast. I'm going to remind you a couple of things right up front. Speaking of Humble, we're going to be talking about Humble again tonight because I think a whole lot of you need to be reminded of a number of things that we have been told, and I suspect a whole lot of people have completely forgotten about, because what they are reminded of every day, they're reminded of what the stock price is, and the stock price isn't where you want it to be. So when you get up and you look and you go, my goodness, it's 91 cents and we're down again, and what the hell? And you go on Twitter and I can see the comments, and people are saying what a lousy investment this is. Here's what I would say. And before you tune me out here, because I can understand where a number of you might be thinking, for heaven's sakes, man, you've been talking nothing but positive about this stock all year, and yet it's done nothing but go down. Well, let's review. First of all, as we know, it's a startup. It's a startup company, and they had to get their act together. Now they are getting their act together. We've had one quarter. We've had all the things. I don't want to go through all the things we already know. I want to go through things that we have been told, but we may have forgotten. So I'm going to be trying to point out and say, you know what 91 cents a share is? That's a gift. And how many times I heard in the beginning when the stock price was shooting up, if I go to the year to date and you see when it shot up and go, well, that's easy for you. Man, I wish I would have been able to buy it back when it was 22 cents. Well, folks, now you are. At 91 cents, you divide that by 4, and you're at about 23 cents. So roughly 23 cents a share pre-reverse split. So this is a gift. 91, not even a buck, folks, 91 cents. Let me move on. There's a couple of things I wanted to bring to you in light of some of the negative comments. And so I'm going to be playing for you a couple of things from the June 30th, a couple of clips from the June 30th investor call that Brian Foote had. We are, by the way, let me remind you, in the third quarter now of Humble. This is the first third quarter in the company's history. July, August, September is the third quarter, okay? September, October, November, December is the fourth quarter. So we are now in the third quarter. In fact, we're about a third of the way. As we sit here at 91 cents, there's a couple of things that are coming up. One, we're going to have earnings, and that'll be interesting. Number two, I'm going to play, well, what about the peer-to-peer? I want to replay something that Brian Foote told us in the June 30th earnings call, and it has to do with the complexities of putting peer-to-peer. It's not just about, can we send someone money? It's about other issues that Brian will bring up in this bite I'm about to play. You don't want to have the feds coming after Humble and fining them for aiding wire fraud, for anti-money laundering, for deceptive credit practices, for money transmitter violations, for lottery scams and phishing fraud. And all of this is complex and has to be dealt with, okay? So let's play that clip first, and then we'll come back and talk.
And then lastly, I just want to, again, emphasize P2P risk, okay? Like, if you look historically at some of the historical payment apps, banks, wire services, the bullet points I have on here alone comprise billions of dollars of fines, billions of dollars of fines. So we are not in a position at Humble, either ethically or financially, to do that. So when it comes to a peer-to-peer piece, I just want to make sure that everybody's really, really clear. Yes, we are technologists. Yes, we're futurists. I can't wait till Humble is serving many countries and many people individually on new forms of payment and trade that save them money, include them in the economy, get them out of waiting in line for an hour to lose 12% on their money. We will get there, I promise you. But we've got to be thoughtful about this, because any one of these things can derail you quickly, especially a unique new company like us that's building trust with compliance, regulatory, the capital markets, funding structures. We can't just wing it out there. So there are some considerations around P2P. I know that everybody just seems to have learned that acronym in the last 3 weeks, but Humble is a platform. It is an ecosystem. We are building on the blockchain, and this particular aspect of our business requires the greatest degree of risk management. So I'm not going to just plow through the crosswalk if there's a red sign. So bear with us there. We'll get it home. It's just going to be done very thoughtfully and cautiously around regulatory and so on.
Clip coming up is long. It's about 3 minutes, but I want to point out before I play it some of the things that Brian is saying here. And what he's saying is that they're going to integrate the ticketing into the app in the third quarter. So folks, we have a number of benchmarks that are looking to come and be made a reality here in the third quarter. And so this 91 cents stock price, and people say, one guy said it's going to go at 84 cents. Maybe it will. I don't care. Then buy more. But 91 cents is a hell of a deal. Now, here's the other thing. Let's talk about growth. What you're going to hear in this clip that goes 3 minutes, one of the things that Brian Foote says, that ticketing is a good business, that we want to be uplisted. He doesn't say this, but he alludes to it. We want to be uplisted down the road. You need to have a certain amount of revenue. What Brian says is, what do people want? They want you to have $100 million in the first year. $100 million in revenue in the first year is what he said. And then he adds, and we will do that. He said that we're going to have the earnings that are going to be coming out later this month for the second quarter. He says we are already going to have sales of over $1 million a month in the first full quarter. The second quarter, so we got April, May, and June were the second quarter. The sales will be over $1 million a month in the first full quarter. So there are revenues coming in. I'm not saying that they're at break even yet. But when Brian says that we will do over $100 million, and then the other thing is this, and he says what I'm telling you here near the end of this 3-minute clip I'm going to play. He says, look again at the profit margins on ticketing. In other words, they are rich. You can make a lot of profit on ticketing. Brian expects the peer-to-peer payments to be down when they, get going here, are going to be massive number of transactions as they will build. I mean, it's going to take a while to build, but they will become massive, just like credit cards payments. As I often say to people, how many transactions do you think Visa is doing right now around the world? It kind of blows your mind to think about it. Peer-to-peer will be doing that. But what Brian is saying, and he says it near the end, peer-to-peer, and he uses a term I don't care for, but it's his term, is a razor blade transaction. In other words, the margins, I wish he would just say it this way, the margins are extremely thin in peer-to-peer. One of the things you want to do for people, not only in a moral way, but also as a business guy, you want to undercut the competition. So you're going to be lowering the rates in peer-to-peer so that your people are going to have an incentive to come to Humble. So you have to do a massive amount of transactions to be making big money in peer-to-peer. what he is saying, and this is why I wanted to replay this stuff for you, because I think a lot of times it's easy to go over your head, especially this part. These videos that I am showing you come near the end of his 50-minute long presentation that he made in June. And so by that point, you know, your mind is probably already filled with details and you kind of didn't absorb it. And that's why I think it's worth going back here. And I'm also why I'm pointing out to you, what is he going to say? That the ticketing business is profitable and that they're looking for another ticketing business. Maybe that one is here in North America. So we got Tickery, which is big in South America and Central America, but maybe one here in North America. He is on the hunt for that. They're going to do $100 million in revenues in this year, he says, their first full year in business, and that they will be doing over $1 million a month in revenue during their first full quarter. So folks, you know, for people that are bitching and belly aching about nothing happening, there's a whole lot happening. Okay, let me play this second clip, and as I said, this runs about 3 minutes.
Okay, so our learnings from the NFT test, on the left side, you've got the buyer functions, and on the right side, you have the seller functions. So what I wanted to do is show you guys what we are working on that we believe will roll out around the August timeframe. Again, I'm kind of getting over giving the roadmap projection, so I want to give myself plenty of leeway. So let's just call it Q3, that these things will come out in Q3. You're going to have really robust buyer functions, and you're going to have really robust seller functions. So it's going to be one of the best NFT galleries in the world on our marketplace. I think NFTs, you know, as you look at asset cycles, there's always this wave one hype cycle, then it crashes down probably lower than it should, and then there's this sustainable build of the people that are actually in the game for the long term. So the buyer and seller functions on our NFT gallery, I'll put up against anybody in the world. This will be done in Q3, and it's going to breed a lot of really cool behavior. In terms of Humble Ticketing, we acquired Tickery, thrilled to partner with them, can't wait to grow that business together, and so on. We really think this moves into a contactless fan experience with NFTs, ticketing, mobile pay, like the whole thing can occur inside Humble over time. So we're really excited about the commemorative NFTs, ticketing. So a lot of this stuff will sit inside the Humble app, and I'm on the look now for another ticketing business to acquire, perhaps that is even higher in volume for the U.S. mid-market. So, you know, no guarantees, but I'm hunting. And then, you know, we're driving sales volume, so revenues. So we'll be doing revenues of transaction volumes of over $1 million a month already at Humble in our first full quarter as a business. So revenues. In terms of the ticketing platform, again, under construction, will occur in Q3. You're going to be able to, we're going to have a customized Humble ticketing experience. So if we do buy a US mid-market ticketing brokerage for primary and secondary, we'll tuck that under Humble Ticketing. So that'll occur on the marketplace. Again, ticketing, NFTs, and real estate. We will move some of those tickets onto blockchain as a secondary function, but right now we just want to get in the game to win the summer on sports, concerts, festivals, etc. You know, the market always wants top line, right? Like drive $100 million of top line in your first year to drive, you know, whatever valuation, etc. So we'll do that. And by the way, you can actually make money on this business line as opposed to, you know, some of the analysis on the razor blade model of early peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer can pay off on the backside of a long-term razor blade model. But again, I encourage you to revisit what profit margins look like on ticketing, even when we're going to come in and undercut everybody that we know you're miserable with in the space.
So there you go, folks. We are in a company that is growing, that is planning its growth. And people say, well, why are they going off in all these different directions? It's because that's the plan. And the plan was the plan all along. And some of you thought that the only plan was to have peer-to-peer payments. And then you thought, well, how come you went into ticketing? Because ticketing was always part of the plan. And Thomas brought to me that you go back to Brian's speech in the Netherlands in April of 2019. And in that speech, when he was with 30 Black Labs, what was he talking about? Ticketing. What was he talking about? He was talking about tokenization of real estate. The things that he is doing, and peer-to-peer payments, and the things that he is doing is the things he was talking about. This is not a radical departure. He's not making it up as he goes along on the fly. I know some people want to have that impression. Some of them, maybe the shorts are doing that, but I think people honestly just have forgotten what have we been told, and that's why I wanted to bring this up today to replay some of these video clips that we have. Now, I just happened to read off here on the side, let me shout out to Yacht Boys Trading, and he had a tweet here that says, "This is a long," meaning holding of Humble. "This is a long, and if anyone here is looking for instant gratification out of the stock, look elsewhere. It will come, but with time. We all want everything now is the problem. But all good things come to those who wait, is what my parents taught me, and it's true by all means." So that is, I think, also part of the problem. You know, we are so, in America, used to immediate gratification. We want to put our $1,000 in the microwave, press 30 seconds, and have it come out as $10,000. It doesn't work that way. You might have thought it worked that way on the penny stock market, but this is why, where I've said before, I don't invest in penny stocks, but I bought Humble, because Humble did not seem to me to act like a penny stock for a variety of reasons. The quality of its management is one of the primary reasons that it wasn't. And so I would just say, folks, we are in the third quarter, the first month of the third quarter, the first time in the whole history of Humble that it has been in a third quarter. That's how new we are. And yet, as I said, and I hope you heard, that, you know, peer-to-peer is where you make money on the back end when you're doing millions or billions of transactions in a year, and you're making slivers of profit. But that adds up because you're doing so many transactions as you build that business globally. But in the nearer term, it's the ticketing business that's going to bring in good money, and in the long run too. $100 billion business, as I said before, if we got a half of 1%, that's $500 million. How much are we going to end up in the ticketing business? I don't know. But, you know, 10% is $10 billion. 5% is $5 billion. So the growth potential of Humble is not only high, it is something that I think where we could all of a sudden see the growth start to really take off. And you got to be patient, is what I've been saying for 7 months, and I've been saying it for 7 months for good reason. I think a lot of you go in with the wrong expectations. A lot of you, like I just read there with Yacht Boys Trading, have the right expectations. I hope you'll have the right expectations. There's times where I want to bring up other stocks because there's nothing particularly new in some days to be talking about Humble. But if I'm talking about something else, it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in Humble. It's just that, you know, it's the reporter in me. If I'm covering a big story, after a while, that story is going to have some lull. You might be covering a murder trial. And after a while, you know, the guy's arrested, the murder happens, the guy's arrested, you start to hire an attorney, you go to arraignment. But, you know, where he's on trial and where he's sentenced might be a year or 18 months away. And so in the meantime, you cover other stories. I'm doing that with Humble. There's some interesting stories. If I stuck them in now, where I'm already 20 minutes, for heaven's sakes, I'd end up going an hour. But there's some interesting stories I'm going to be bringing your way One company, it's not, by the way, not even traded, so you can't buy any shares in it. It's a private company for now. It may down the road go public, which is one reason I want to bring it to your attention. It may have a big impact on some investments you're holding, depending upon what you're holding. And it will probably definitely change the game of communications again over the next 3 to 5 years. Maybe over the next year and a half. So that's another thing I'm going to be bringing to your attention. As always, folks, love looking at give me your thoughts. I enjoy reading them. And just be patient is what I would tell you, because we are about to see, and I did say this back in June, we are about to see in the 6 months between June and December, a much quicker pattern of developments coming in Humble than we saw in the first 6 months when they were putting the company together. Now we're starting to roll, okay? And as we start rolling out, we're going to be going faster and faster in the development stage. But I thought it was good today to remind you of why some of these things, like the peer-to-peer, are pretty complicated, and you got to watch it. Otherwise, you're going to be put out of business by the fines you're going to be facing. So with that, I'll say good night. Have a good night. Hope you enjoy the summer. And if I catch you on vacation, I hope you're having a wonderful time. We'll see you soon.